Controlling games with our eyes, faces, and minds may soon be a standard rather than a dream if the research and partnerships happening in the VR sector bear fruit. If you heard about the partnership between Valve, OpenBCI, and Tobii earlier this year and didn't think there's much to be expected from it, stick around and I'll give you some insight as to why it has me excited for the next steps of the virtual reality medium. Hello virtual dreamers, Gregory here. Earlier this year, a partnership between Valve, OpenBCI, and Tobii was announced with the intention to produce a form of modified Valve Index headset with elements of Tobii's eye tracking technology and OpenBCI's Project Galia brain-computer interface. Each one of these companies is fairly well known in their respective areas, and to say that a partnership between them spells big things for the future of the medium would be an understatement. Valve is one of the biggest players in the VR and gaming spaces. Having their research efforts be so firmly pointed in the direction of brain-computer interfaces is a promising sign. It was just a year ago that Valve founder Gabe Newell alluded to the possibility of using BCIs in future control solutions, and a year later now, they're announcing a partnership with a brain-computer interface company and an eye-tracking company to create a development kit for this kind of project? When you consider that all of these elements can very likely be packaged together into a single kit to begin with, it really speaks volumes to how much potential there is here for VR to pursue this direction in the future, and it means a whole lot for one of the biggest players to be taking it so seriously this early in the game. It's worth noting as well that OpenBCI being involved in all of this bodes very well for the sake of information and tracking transparency. As their name implies, OpenBCI has operated under a philosophy of keeping their products' functionality and applications readily accessible to the larger community. The power of open source shouldn't be underestimated, and the value this poses to the future of VR when other companies in the space such as Facebook are happily closing down their software and platforms can't go unnoticed. Tobii being involved in the arrangement at all really just further cements just how important eye tracking is going to be to the medium of VR. Tracing the path of people's visions on screens has been a fun way to glimpse into what's going on in people's minds for years now. It only makes sense that using eye tracking in tandem with brain and gameplay analysis can greatly assist in enhancing the data collection possibilities. Throw in that eye tracking has value for VR in performance, gameplay, and immersive matters thanks to foveated rendering, eye-based reticle targeting, and eye animation respectively, and having an established player in the eye tracking space involved in the future of VR should be a huge relief. The full-blown partnership between Valve, OpenBCI, and Tobii to combine the Valve Index, Project Galia, and Tobii eye tracking technology now could be pointing towards a near future where these technologies are standards as a foundational part of our VR experiences. By all means, this should be a great thing for the medium. Operative word being should. Knowing who my audience is, the chances aren't small that a lot of people here are champing at the bit to hear if this kind of news is pointing towards something like Full Dive from Sword Art Online becoming a reality anytime soon. I want to nip that discussion here at the bud, so let's get right into it. Simply put, no. This stuff all put together isn't going to be even remotely comparable to Full Dive VR technology. I've been a broken record about this since 2018's EEG plus HMD equals NVG video on the subject, but it bears repeating. None of the technologies involved in this project are particularly new. In a way, you can get forms of all of them right now if you so please, and some of you may already have them available to you at this very moment. The big deal here isn't that the combination is some magic full dive shortcut, but rather that the unison happening at all gives us insight into the direction VR may be heading towards. This gives developers some peace of mind that working on this kind of project won't be a total waste of their time, and by extension, reassures us that we'll possibly get to see things that use this stuff become more available. Which, while a positive outcome to be sure, may not be as revolutionary as one might expect. By all means, the most I'd say we can expect from this tech in the near future is maybe some emotional input for developers to work with. I consider that great personally, but to most of you, that probably sounds about as exciting as hearing about triangle counts was in last year's PS5 Unreal demo. Us regular folks and gamers aside though, the marketers in the crowd are probably hearing all of this and feeling like they're listening to music. Getting an idea for the direction of the industry, while great when we're looking at the positives, doesn't mean we should ignore the potential downsides here. I fully expect major players like Facebook to take a VR headset where they have biometric data like your eye position and EEG activity and to proceed to capture every bit of possible data they can from it in order to use for their own objectives. Toby's eye tracking tech has been used by marketing firms plenty in the past, and it only makes sense that companies, barring any major legislative interference, will seek to leverage this valuable information to their advantage. While I'd like to think that nothing negative will happen here, Facebook has already taken advantage of Valve-made technological progress, talent, and used predatory business practices plenty in the past. Something tells me that them being on top of the PC VR and standalone VR spaces, with the gap only widening now, isn't making them hesitant on continuing this trend in the future. There's a whole lot to unpack with VR's path forward towards maturity. While I think the bad is something we as a community must be vigilant for, I think we can at the very least also spare some time to try and enjoy the medium's youth a little, and appreciate the good that will likely come from these developments in the near term. While I did mention earlier that I don't expect the EEG aspect of things to pan out for much, I can't say the same for the EOG, EMG, PPG, and EDA sensors in Project Gallia as well. EMG is effective enough that it's been used in prosthetics people use regularly, and Facebook already demonstrated outright typing capabilities with it last year at Oculus Connect. Muscles are orders of magnitudes simpler to analyze than our brains, so it makes sense that this makes it much easier for us to work with them for our computer models as well. While the functions for facial tracking when it comes to gameplay here may not be as useful as something like using EMG on the body, it's logical to use EMG and EOG to get facial tracking data over or in tandem with optics when you consider that half of your face is being covered up by the giant pair of goggles you're wearing in order to be immersed in VR. It's also worth noting that depending on the quality of the tech at hand, it isn't entirely out of the realm of possibility that EOG could heavily assist with foveated rendering and eye tracking systems in tandem with the Toby tech, thanks to the electrical activity that indicates a muscle is going to move, typically being legible before the movement occurs. Yes, that basically means we'd be using negative lag or precognition to get a head start on tracking eye movement. And while I can't go into too much depth on PPG and EDA here, since I'm not very familiar with them, I don't think it's too hard to imagine uses for tech that has been used to monitor heart rates, blood oxygenation, blood pressure, and psychological states for providing more accurate physical and emotional state data for games. Really, a whole lot of the functionality that the Valve partnership with Project Gallia and Toby encourages could become major components of our VR experiences going forward. Foveated rendering, eye tracking, facial animation, emotion tracking, possibly neural click or full neural controls for special uses. These are benefits that range from useful for niche cases and novel experiences to outright having the potential to influence every part of our VR experiences. While we're still far from a full dive solution here, I've been having way more fun in VR this year than I've been in pancake experiences, so I'll take any way to enhance that fun as a plus. It's very much worth noting that there are still tons of ways for us to enhance the current VR experiences for the masses with presently existing technologies that are more a matter of getting the distribution channel set up than they are anything of trying to invent some magic transceiver to hack action potentials in a three-dimensional array structure. And for all the concerns about privacy, it's worth remembering that OpenBCI being open source means that the most scary part of this system data-wise is at the very least going to be much better understood by the larger community than the others, thus enabling us a better chance to spot the shenanigans that may be occurring ahead of time. Valve hasn't exactly had a bad reputation for privacy concerns in the past, and their strong relationships with the modding communities gives more confidence compared to Facebook. While I personally take a policy of trusting no one here, it's reassuring to at the very least have a hint of good faith involved in this situation. VR is still pretty darn young as far as new tech is concerned, and I don't want to see us letting the struggles of human realities corrupt the childlike joy and potential that we can look forward to from this medium in the near future. At the end of the day now, while the moves made here are hardly a sign of major change in our gameplay experiences in the immediate future, the seeds of VR's pursuit of higher levels of immersion and sophistication are definitely being fostered here, and I, for one, can't wait to see the fruit that comes to bear. Thank you very much for watching this video. Be sure to rate, comment, share, and subscribe to let YouTube algorithm sama know you want to come back here for more. Special thanks to my patrons, Christopher Phelps and Martin, for their support. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at MarkystalVR, as I have some pretty crazy stuff to show and big changes coming pretty soon, and they may not always reach the main channel in a timely manner, so that's your best bet to stay on top of things. Till next time, my fellow adventurers and dreamers, this has been Gregory, logging out.